Hey everybody! In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to do a gesture drawing. You can do a gesture drawing with a regular pencil, with paint. I'm actually going to be using some conte crayons, which are a little waxier than charcoal, but pretty similar, and some vine charcoal. It's just because I like the looseness of this quality and I think it lends themselves well to gestural drawing. So, a gesture drawing is a really quick sketch that just helps us sort of lay down the general placement and movement of an object. Um, I really like to do it whenever I start a drawing. I start very loose, very sketchy. I just kind of lay things down really quickly just to get a general idea of their placement. Um, Another thing to note would be the grip that you use. So I have another video on the sketch grip, the pencil grip. So instead of holding it like a pencil, I'm holding it in my hand like this. So I'm using more of the edge of the object. So if I were to hold a pencil, I'd be holding it like this rather than like this. So this allows me to use sort of the edge of the pencil instead of the tip of the pencil, which is going to give me broader, looser marks as I'm working. So holding my utensil like this is going to allow me to kind of loosen up with my drawing. I'm not going to be focused so much on hyper details and tiny lines. So gestural drawing, not hard lines, not really precise things. It's very loose, it's very fast. It just helps us get our ideas onto paper. Now, when I'm learning about gesture drawing, one of my favorite things to do is look at dancers and kind of like pause them in mid-movement. Basically, anyone that's doing something with a lot of motion is really fun to do gesture drawings with. And in particular, there is one person that I really love to do gesture drawings of. His name's Lil Buck, and he's mostly known for this style of dancing called Memphis Jookin. And it's, I don't know, it's like a mix of breakdancing and ballet. It is fabulous, and it's like he does not have bones. It's amazing. So just like watching him dance, definitely check it out. Very cool. So I'm going to do a couple quick gesture drawings of him dancing. So I just kind of found some still images. And when I start a gesture drawing, I like to just focus on main directional marks, like what direction are things going in. I'm not focused on details, I'm just focused on the directions, sort of that energy of things going. So he's got this like really strong curve of his leg and back with his head tilted back like that. And then we also have that strong outward movement of the other leg pointing upwards. So this is like my super basic gestural sketch here. And what's fun about vine charcoal is if I don't like something, I can just kind of like rub over the paper and just lighten it up a bunch. So nothing really feels very permanent. But I start like this, and then I could switch from vine charcoal to conte at this point, or I could keep developing with the vine charcoal, or just use a pencil, you know, nothing. I like using kind of a variety of colors as I'm working just to help develop things. So at this point, I'm going to start breaking the form down into sort of main shapes. So I'm getting kind of like the ball of the hip, sort of these cylindrical shapes creating the legs, sort of the angles of the foot, and building up the form of the torso. So basically, I'm not worrying about details. I'm worrying about the movement of the form and sort of the general placement of things. So, you know, we're starting to see a little more volume being built up here, but we're also not really seeing any details. It's still very fast and loose, if you will. And I'm feeling pretty good about the placement of things here, like the layout of stuff. I think the leg might be a little long, but that's okay. Like at this stage in the game, it's not really an issue. And the arm seems maybe a little short, so I think I need to kind of play around with where all of this is coming together, but that's okay. I like making my drawings kind of messy with this. If you're doing a conte drawing or something, this is going to be, I don't know, a lot lighter. You aren't going to focus too much on building up specifics yet. So you could stick with that vine charcoal if you're worried about making mistakes or, you know, going too dark with things. All right, so I'm feeling good about that. Another thing we could do is kind of make note of relationships between things. So we could look at like the negative space in between the body. We could look at sort of like angles between, say, like the top of the foot and the shoulder, like what sort of angle is created there, to try and make sure everything's at the right sort of layout. That's going to be helpful. So I'm just kind of blocking those things in. That's going to help me figure out where everything kind of belongs. One thing that I'm not quite getting right is this part of the leg with the bend in the foot. So I just really want to cut in with those angles. And then lock in sort of the direction of the shoe slash heel. Like, I swear this man has no bones. He is made of a gelatinous material or something. Like, the way his body moves is unusual, to say the least. All right, so that kind of helped me. And you can always take a kneaded eraser or a regular eraser to kind of lift up some of the areas if you get a little too much. So like I definitely exaggerated that angle a little too much. Maybe I made the foot a little too high. That's okay. You know, we can just lift some of that off a little bit and develop it further later. Another thing is I think I made his legs a little too wide. So we just want to thin them out a little bit, especially as the leg is disappearing in space. It's foreshortened, so it's going to kind of play with that angle as we're going across here. All right, so that's feeling pretty good. From this point, I could go in with a darker color, so I could choose, you know, like a darker brown or a black. I'm just going to use black. And I can start to kind of refine the lines a little bit. With a gesture, if all you're looking for is capturing the energy of the movement, you could just stop here. Easy peasy, right? Otherwise, you know, we could start to refine the edges just a little bit. So I feel like this is a pretty great indicator of the movement of the pose. I feel like it's showing a lot of sort of the angles of the body pretty accurately, so I feel pretty good about that as a gesture drawing. Gesture drawings don't have to be about, you know, a figure in motion. They can be just a quick gesture of something like an object. It doesn't have to be a person or an animal or something moving. For example, I could draw this glue gun, you know? So maybe I will set that here and do a really fast gesture drawing of what I'm seeing with this glue gun. And capture the energy of its placement. We want to capture the angles in which it's sitting. Make it look like a ray gun, maybe. So one thing you want to really kind of note when you are working on your gesture drawings is that a gesture is more than just a scribble. It's got to capture that sort of the angles and the placement of the form. It's not just, you know, making a scribbly stick person. We're understanding like proportions and the relationships between objects and the placement of where things fall on the form. All of that stuff goes into doing this. So I might be drawing really quickly, but I'm still, when I'm drawing, I'm looking at my object more than I'm looking at my paper. I'm really, really observing closely what it is that I am drawing, because the looking is the most important part of drawing accurately. So in order to be a good realistic, or to create a realistic, you know, interpretation of an object, you need to spend probably twice as much time looking at the object than looking at your paper. This is really, really important, and it's difficult when you start if you're not used to that sort of very close looking at something. So, you know, it takes some practice. You need to drag your eyes away from your paper as much as possible because the paper is not reality. The object, the person, whatever it is you're drawing is reality. So you want to spend that time staring at it, like stare it down. Really focus on what it is you are seeing in real life because that is going to create your accuracy as you're drawing. So when we're looking at gesture drawings, we're focusing on working quickly. We're laying down the basic angles and relationships between certain objects. If you look at my video on how to draw realistically from life with sighting and angling, you're going to learn more about this in depth. But gesture drawing is a great staple for learning how to see and learning how to look at things really closely. Whether or not you interpret them realistically, it's going to help you figure out the layout of things. So I encourage you to look up some Memphis Jookin and draw some little buck. It'll be a fun time. Good luck on your gesture drawings. Thanks for watching and keep creating.